Building any elevated house, whether it be a beach house like this one, which is way up in the air, or one that is just 3 to 4 feet up and off the ground, is very different from building a traditional slab-on-grade home. You see, any house, when broken down, is nothing more than a group of systems all working together to form a house. In an elevated house, one of the most important yet most overlooked systems is what is called the floor system. If the floor system is installed incorrectly, it can cost you thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars in only 2 to 3 short years, plus months, a couple weeks living in a hotel while the repairs are being made. Let's walk through some proper techniques of a properly installed floor system so that these repairs don't happen to you. My name's Jason, and this is Texas Coastal Construction. Over the years, I have built well over 100 elevated homes all up and down the Texas Upper Coast. So through this, I have learned what works, and more importantly, what doesn't. So my hope in this video is to show you what works so that you can avoid repairs like this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Some of these homes were less than 3 years old. Just a disclaimer, the photos are not my houses. I have a friend who owns a flooring company. These are pictures that he has taken from repairs that he has done over the last couple years, all on elevated homes. But before we dive into floor system installation, what is a floor system? Let's go over the components. Your foundation system and your floor system actually work together. You start with your treated pilings, which are driven into the ground. And then resting on top of your pilings are what are called stringers. These are treated boards. They're either 2x12s or they can be beams. And then these two systems support the entire weight of the house. Your lollipops are nailed in between your stringers, and then your floor joists then are nailed to your lollipops and rest on top of your stringers. So you can see an overview of our floor joists, and over here they started installing our subfloor. If you're more interested in the floor system and how the whole thing works together and how it's all put together, I have an entire video on this. I'll put a link in the description down below. The subfloor itself can either come in plywood, which is also called CDX, or OSB. And it ranges from a thickness of only 1/2 inch all the way up to 1 1/8 inches. Personally, I like to use 1 1/8 inch at Vantech OSB. I would never, ever, ever go anything under 7/8 of an inch. It is an OSB composite. You can kind of see the interior of it there. Now this has been sitting out. This is just a spare piece. The thing I like about this, it is super strong, it's super durable. It has a tongue and groove. Because these pieces interlock, it joins the entire subfloor together, and it really does a good job at helping to prevent any squeaks in your floor. Another important thing is you want to try to leave maybe 1/8 of an inch gap, because it does like to expand a little bit if it gets a little wet. Some other ways to prevent squeaks in your subfloor is to use a really good adhesive, and also I like to use these. These are 3-inch, you see they're called ring shank nails. You see the shanks on the nails? These are basically like using screws. Don't ever use a straight shank nail when installing your subfloor. They just pull out and it doesn't get a real good grip. Always use ring shank nails. Have you ever seen a long board that warps over time and it gets that almost like a hockey stick look at the end? Well, these boards do that often. So where those boards overlap, a lot of the times the framers, they'll nail on each end of those boards. But we need to go up there After all the floor joists are in, but before the subfloor is in, we need to go up there and we need to check every single place where those boards overlap. So then any place that's even remotely questionable, or we think we might need a few more nails, we could just ask our framers, but a lot of times it's just as easy and to install these guys. These are 3-inch heavy-duty stainless rust-proof deck screws. You see, they're huge. They have the diamond head. This is the easiest way to avoid a warranty issue, a subfloor issue a year or two down the road, because all it takes is for one board to not be nailed quite right, and then next thing you know, that board's pushing up like that on the subfloor, and next thing you know, you have an annoying massive hump right in the middle of your hallway of your house. It's a lot easier to make sure you're here to insert a couple screws than to deal with that 2 years down the road. So boards like this is an excellent example of what I'm talking about. You have one single 2x12, it's not nailed to a lollipop, and it's only nailed right down there a little bit at the bottom, and it runs the entire length of the floor joist. So I took a piece of 5/8 inch radius board and it fit perfectly in that opening, and you can see where I screwed it in from the top at an angle and also from the sides. That quick little fix could possibly have saved us thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars in floor repairs within the next year or two. A secondary but more costly option when it comes to installing your floor joists is you can use web trusses. Web trusses are a little sturdier. They all lay flat, so you don't have to worry about the hockey stick effect, and they're a little bit wider, so it gives you a larger surface to glue and nail to. They are also nice because you can run your plumbing in between them. Up next is the single most important thing you must do to protect your subfloor if you live in an elevated house. But first, a word from the sponsor of this video.
Hi, my name is Jason. I am the owner of SELA Coastal Homes. What's in a name? After all, SELA is a very strange name for a home builder. The rains came, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet that house would not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. Matthew 7:25. In Hebrew, SELA means cornerstone, or a rock to build a foundation on. This verse is the cornerstone for every SELA home we build. Our homes look great and we can do any custom finish you desire. But more important, our homes come with many structural upgrades that we call our SELA Builder Advantage. Our commitment is to build a durable, strong, hurricane-safe home, even if it means putting a little less to the bottom line. But again, I ask, what's in a name? Quality, durability, honesty, and integrity. Build better. Build SELA.
Soft spots, humps, bumps, mold, and rot is the #1 warranty issue on almost every subfloor when it comes to having an elevated house. And depending on the extent of the mold or the rot, almost the entire subfloor and floor needs to be ripped up and replaced. This costs tens of thousands of dollars and weeks living in a hotel during the repair. So let's take a look at why this happens and how it can be prevented when you build your house. So let's hop over here to the whiteboard and let's take a look at my funky fresh little drawing here. So we just completed this house. What do we have up and running now? We have air conditioning. So we have the inside, which is 70 to 72 degrees of nice cool air. It is July right now in Texas. The real feel outside is between 100 to 105 degrees with 80 to 90% humidity, which means that you have super warm, again, I didn't have a red marker, you have super warm cool air, or super warm hot air on the outside, mixing with 70-degree cool air on the inside. And the only things, remember, you have 12 inches of floor joist between the outside and the inside. And the only divider you have is your subfloor, which is wood. What happens when you mix cold air and warm air? You guessed it. Water vapor starts to form. So where does that water vapor absorb into? Your subfloor. And what does your flooring have? If you have anything like this, which is a vinyl floor, it has this hard waterproof layer on the outside and it has this padding on the inside. This is designed to trap water underneath it. And if you were to use a wood floor, it's no different. What do they put underneath your wood floor? They put down a vapor barrier to keep the water here on your subfloor. So what we need to do is we need to put a barrier on the outside of the house that keeps the cool air and the water vapor and the moisture underneath, that way it can't hit your subfloor. And that's how we fix this problem. Why then do so many elevated homes continue to have mold, moisture, and subfloor problems? It's simple. Because builders, in order to save a couple bucks, cheat, and they don't insulate underneath the house properly. Case in point, this is a brand new house under construction in Crystal Beach. They use fiberglass insulation to insulate underneath their subfloor. Does fiberglass insulation repel moisture or absorb moisture? Correct. It absorbs moisture. And where is all that moisture going to go? Into the subfloor. This subfloor is going to be completely rotten within 3 to 5 years. So what that builder should have done, instead of using fiberglass insulation, is he should have installed closed cell spray foam underneath the house to protect your subfloor. If you are building an elevated house, this is non-negotiable. If your builder doesn't want to do it, hire a new builder. Closed cell spray foam, not to be confused with open cell spray foam. These cells are close together and filled with gas, so they create a dense, rigid structure. But this rigid structure makes it excellent as a vapor barrier that prevents any moisture from passing through. It also has a typically higher R value of 6.0 to 7.0 per inch, and you generally want a minimum of 2 inches underneath your house. The final thing you need to do to protect your subfloor is when you seal underneath your house, make sure you keep ventilation so that way there's airflow underneath the house so that that rotten stale air doesn't get trapped and that moisture doesn't get trapped underneath your house. The best way to do this is to utilize that space in between your stringers. Put ventilated soffit over that area, and then that allows the air to go through the soffit, through that crawl space, and access the cavity between your underbelly hardy and your subfloor. So if you made it to the end of this video, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch. If you found it, if you enjoyed it and can hit that like button, I would greatly appreciate it. Or if you want to join us for more home building tips, press the subscribe button. If you have any questions, just drop a comment down below. And if you live in the upper Texas coast and are interested in possibly having me build a house for you, My name is Jason, and my company is SELA Coastal Homes. I'll drop a link to my website in the description down below. So until then, we'll catch you on the next episode of Texas Coastal Construction. Y'all have a blessed day.